Sharks were already swimming through Earth's oceans more than 400 million years ago. They appeared long before the first trees spread across land, and long before dinosaurs walked the continents. Across that immense stretch of time, their bodies proved remarkably durable, built around a design that rarely needed to change. Today, scientists recognize more than 500 living species of sharks. Most people picture them in bright coastal waters. Sunlit reefs, open beaches, and the blue surface ocean have shaped the familiar image of what a shark is supposed to look like. But that bright ocean represents only a small portion of the sea. Sunlight fades quickly in water. By roughly 200 meters below the surface, the clear blue world begins to dim. Colors soften, distance becomes harder to judge. Far below that fading layer, the last traces of daylight disappear. Beyond roughly 1,000 meters, the ocean exists in permanent darkness. Temperatures hover only a few degrees above freezing, and the pressure of the water above grows immense. For a long time, many scientists assumed such conditions would limit the presence of large predators. Yet exploration slowly revealed something else. Cameras lowered into deep water began capturing unfamiliar sharks moving through the darkness. Some carried faint points of light along their bodies, producing their own glow in a world without sunlight. Others possessed long, flexible bodies that moved through the water in slow, drifting motions. Their jaws often behaved differently as well. Instead of the steady bite seen in many coastal species, some sharks possess jaws that can extend outward in sudden motion, capturing prey in water where visibility is almost non-existent. Growth patterns changed too. Certain species develop so slowly that their lifespans may stretch across centuries. Eyes also begin to vary dramatically. Some sharks carry unusually large eyes designed to gather the faintest traces of light from above. Others possess eyes so small that vision becomes secondary, replaced by senses tuned to smell and faint electrical signals moving through the water. Several of these animals appear strikingly ancient. Their bodies resemble species that swam through prehistoric oceans, preserved in forms that have changed very little across immense spans of time. Many of them were unknown to science until very recently. Deep-sea submersibles and remotely operated cameras have only begun exploring these regions, and each descent continues to reveal sharks that rarely appear in the familiar world near the surface. As exploration moves farther downward, the sharks begin to look less familiar. Bodies stretch longer, teeth shift into new shapes, senses reorganize around a world without sunlight, and slowly, the familiar outline of a shark transforms into something far stranger. This video explores why sharks become more unusual the deeper they live in the ocean. Morning light spreads across the open sea in wide, shifting patterns. Near the surface, the ocean feels expansive and alive, a place where movement is constant and visibility stretches far into blue distance. Sunlight pours downward through clear water, illuminating drifting plankton, scattered schools of fish, and long corridors of open space where predators move with quiet confidence. This bright upper world forms the setting most people imagine when the word shark is spoken. Within this illuminated layer, sharks follow rhythms shaped by warmth, light, and abundant life. Here the water is rich with energy. Currents carry nutrients from distant coasts and deep upwellings, feeding enormous networks of marine organisms. Small fish gather in dense formations, silver bodies flashing as they shift direction together. Larger fish patrol their edges. Sea turtles glide between reefs. Dolphins sweep through in coordinated arcs. The environment hums with motion, and sharks have evolved to navigate it with precision. The great white shark moves through this world as a powerful silhouette against the sunlit water. Its body is built for acceleration, strong muscles driving a streamlined form that can surge forward in sudden bursts. Dark eyes remain alert to subtle motion. When prey appears, the shark relies on sharp vision and rapid movement, closing distance quickly through clear water, where escape often depends on speed alone. Elsewhere in warmer seas, tiger sharks drift along coral reefs and sandy coastlines. Their bodies carry faint stripes that once inspired their name, patterns that soften against shifting light. Unlike the focused pursuit of some open ocean hunters, tiger sharks wander broadly, guided by curiosity and an adaptable appetite. Fish, crustaceans, sea snakes, and even seabirds may become part of their diet. In a bright and crowded environment, flexibility becomes its own advantage. Reef sharks inhabit another corner of this sunlit realm. Around coral formations where color and life gather densely, these slender hunters weave through narrow passages and open lagoons. Their movements appear effortless. With quick turns and sudden bursts of speed, they chase smaller fish that scatter among coral branches. Clear water allows these sharks to rely heavily on sight. A flicker of movement is often enough to trigger pursuit. Across these varied species, sunlight quietly shapes nearly every aspect of life. In clear water, vision becomes a dominant sense. Eyes develop to detect contrast, motion, and distance in an environment where light travels freely. Body colors often follow a familiar pattern. Darker shades cover the back, blending with deeper water when viewed from above, while pale undersides fade into brightness when seen from below. This natural camouflage allows sharks to approach unnoticed in the open sea. Speed also becomes essential in the illuminated ocean. Prey animals can see approaching danger from far away, and escape routes stretch through open water. Sharks respond with powerful tails, flexible bodies, and fins designed for lift and maneuverability. Their forms reflect a balance between strength and efficiency, allowing them to patrol wide territories while remaining ready for brief explosions of motion. Warm temperatures influence the pace of life as well. Metabolism runs faster in these upper waters, supporting active hunting and steady movement across long distances. Some sharks migrate along coastlines or across entire ocean basins, following shifting patterns of prey carried by seasonal currents. The surface world remains dynamic, a place where predator and prey continually adjust to one another in an endless dance of movement and awareness. For many people observing the ocean from boats, beaches, or underwater cameras, these sharks represent the familiar image of the species. Sleek bodies, sharp teeth, and confident motion define a predator shaped by brightness and abundance. Their design reflects a world where light fills the water and life gathers in great numbers. Yet even here, beneath the shining surface, the ocean begins to deepen. The brightness softens slowly with depth, and the influence of sunlight gradually weakens as the water thickens above the descending seafloor. If a person could drift downward through open ocean water, the journey would feel less like crossing distance and more like passing quietly through levels of an immense vertical landscape. The sea is not only wide across its surface, it is deep in ways that create separate realms stacked one above another, each shaped by how far sunlight can travel before it fades into darkness. Near the top lies the epipelagic zone, the upper layer where daylight still moves freely through water. Here, the sun penetrates deeply enough for vision to guide nearly every interaction. The ocean in this region supports immense biological activity. Microscopic algae float near the surface and convert sunlight into energy, forming the base of a vast marine food web. Tiny drifting organisms feed on them. Small fish gather to consume those organisms, and larger animals follow close behind. Life grows dense because energy flows easily from light into living tissue. Within this illuminated region, animals evolve in response to clear visibility and abundant movement. Bodies become streamlined to navigate open water efficiently. Eyes develop to detect contrast and motion across long distances. Predators rely on pursuit, acceleration, and awareness, while prey species evolve schooling behavior, rapid turning, and reflective scales that scatter incoming light. Every form reflects a world where brightness shapes survival, yet the reach of sunlight has limits. As depth increases, water absorbs and scatters light in gradual stages. Colors begin disappearing first. Reds fade quickly, then oranges and yellows. Blues remain longest, drifting downward in dimmer shades until even they weaken. This gradual dimming marks the beginning of the mesopelagic zone, often called the twilight zone. Between roughly 200 and 1,000 meters below the surface, daylight still exists but arrives in weakened form. The environment here feels suspended between brightness and darkness. Shapes become silhouettes rather than clear forms. Movement is visible, yet distance becomes difficult to judge. Life continues in this fading world, though it follows different patterns. Food arrives less predictably because sunlight no longer drives strong primary production. Organisms drifting downward from the surface provide much of the available nourishment. Small particles of organic debris, sometimes called marine snow, fall slowly through the water column. Tiny crustaceans, gelatinous animals, and specialized fish intercept this steady descent. Predators living here must adapt to the scattered nature of prey. Some rise upward during the night to feed in shallower water, returning to deeper levels by day. Others drift patiently through dim currents, conserving energy while waiting for opportunity. Vision still plays a role, though it changes in subtle ways as animals adjust to faint illumination. Far below, sunlight finally disappears completely. The bathypelagic zone, often described as the midnight zone, begins beyond roughly 1,000 meters. At this depth, the ocean enters permanent darkness. No glow from the sun remains. The only light comes from living organisms or rare disturbances near the sea floor. Conditions shift in several quiet but powerful ways. Temperatures remain only a few degrees above freezing. Pressure from the immense weight of water above grows steadily stronger with depth. Energy becomes scarce because sunlight never reaches this region to fuel surface productivity. Organisms living here must rely on slow metabolic rhythms and specialized adaptations that allow survival where food is uncertain. Each of these layers creates its own evolutionary pressures. In the upper oceans, speed and visibility dominate the struggle between predator and prey. In the twilight region, dim light rewards animals capable of detecting faint movement or conserving energy between meals. In the deepest darkness, survival favors patience, sensory sensitivity, and bodies capable of enduring cold pressure for long spans of time. The ocean therefore functions less like a single habitat and more like a towering ecosystem arranged in vertical bands. Species living only a few hundred meters apart may experience environments that feel entirely different, shaped by the simple but powerful influence of fading light. Within these stacked worlds, sharks appear in forms that gradually reflect the conditions surrounding them, their bodies quietly adjusting to the slow descent of the sea. Between the bright upper ocean and the deeper twilight below lies a gradual threshold where the character of the sea begins to change. At roughly 200 meters beneath the surface, sunlight no longer fills the water with the same steady clarity found above. Illumination still exists, yet it arrives softened and diluted, filtered through a long column of water that absorbs more brightness with every passing meter. In this region, the ocean takes on a muted appearance. Light becomes bluish and faint, drifting downward in narrow shafts that weaken as they descend. Objects remain visible, though edges blur into the surrounding water. Motion can still be detected, but distance grows uncertain, and the sharp outlines that define the upper ocean slowly dissolve into shadowed forms. Life continues here, though the abundance seen closer to the surface begins to thin. Schools of fish no longer gather in dense clouds that ripple across open water. Individuals and smaller groups move through wider spaces, separated by stretches of quiet sea. Food is still present, carried downward from above or produced by animals that travel between layers, yet it arrives less reliably. These subtle changes create new conditions for the predators that descend into this dimmer world. Sharks that venture into these depths begin to show quiet differences in form and behavior. Their bodies still carry the familiar outline of streamlined hunters, but certain features shift in response to fading light and more scattered prey. Eyes often grow larger relative to the body, gathering as much illumination as possible from the weakening glow above. Sensitive retinal structures allow these sharks to detect small contrasts in dim water, turning faint silhouettes into recognizable movement. Even the slightest flicker can signal the presence of a fish drifting just beyond clear view. Movement itself also begins to change. In the brighter ocean above, sudden bursts of speed often determine the outcome of a hunt. Here the pace slows slightly. Sharks glide through the water with measured efficiency, conserving energy as they travel through spaces where encounters with prey may occur less frequently. Muscles still carry strength, yet the rhythm of motion becomes more deliberate, guided by patience rather than constant pursuit. Body shapes begin to vary as well. Some species develop longer, more flexible forms that allow subtle adjustments in buoyancy and direction. These shapes help maintain steady movement through water where visibility limits the ability to react quickly. Pectoral fins widen in certain species, creating gentle lift that reduces the effort needed to remain suspended at a chosen depth. Coloration shifts quietly in this environment. With light fading and fewer colors reaching these depths, bodies often appear darker or more uniform in tone. Shades of deep gray or muted brown help sharks blend into the dim background when viewed from either above or below. Camouflage remains important even where visibility grows uncertain. Hunting strategies adapt alongside these physical changes. Rather than relying solely on direct visual pursuit, sharks in this zone begin to integrate other senses more fully. The faint electrical signals produced by muscle contractions in nearby animals travel easily through seawater. Sensitive organs distributed along the shark's snout detect these signals, allowing the predator to perceive hidden movement, even when sight provides only limited guidance. Gradually, the character of the sharks themselves begins to shift as they spend more time in this dim corridor of the ocean. Familiar silhouettes remain, yet subtle adjustments accumulate across generations. Larger eyes, quieter movement, and refined sensory awareness all reflect the gentle but persistent influence of fading light. Within these depths, between 200 and 500 meters, the ocean reveals the first hints that life can change in unexpected ways when brightness begins to slip away. In the ocean's middle depths, where daylight has thinned into a quiet glow, a different community of sharks begins its slow, deliberate life. This region stretches from roughly 200 to 1,000 meters below the surface, forming a vast belt of dim water that encircles the planet. The environment feels suspended between brightness and darkness, neither fully illuminated nor entirely hidden. In this subdued realm, sharks have evolved forms and behaviors that reflect a world where energy must be spent carefully and perception must work with very little light. Many of the sharks living here appear more restrained in their movements than their relatives in the brighter ocean above. Their swimming often unfolds in long, steady glides rather than sudden bursts of speed. The muscles that power their bodies still carry strength, yet the rhythm of motion becomes quieter, measured in smooth arcs through the water. Every movement has a purpose. In a place where meals may arrive unpredictably, Conserving energy becomes a subtle but constant strategy. Body design quietly supports this efficiency. Some twilight zone sharks possess slender shapes that move easily through dense water without demanding excessive effort. Their fins spread gently from the body, providing stability while allowing slow cruising over long distances. The tail sweeps in calm, even strokes, maintaining forward motion with minimal waste of energy. Vision also shifts in response to the limited light drifting downward from the distant surface. Eyes often appear larger than those of many coastal species, reflecting an adaptation for collecting the faintest available illumination. Inside the eye, sensitive structures amplify small traces of light, allowing silhouettes or distant motion to emerge from what might otherwise appear as darkness. These sharks do not rely on bright contrast or vivid color. Instead, they detect subtle changes in shadow and movement within the dim blue environment. Yet even these enlarged eyes represent only part of the sensory landscape. The twilight zone contains countless faint signals moving through the water. Tiny vibrations from swimming fish travel outward as gentle pressure waves. Chemical traces from injured prey drift slowly along currents. Electrical impulses generated by muscle contractions spread through the surrounding water. Sharks in this depth combine all of these cues, building a quiet map of nearby life, even when direct sight provides only fragments of information. Some species living in these depths follow a remarkable daily pattern that connects two distant layers of the ocean. As darkness settles over the surface at night, many small fish and squid rise upward from the twilight zone to feed in richer waters closer to the top. Certain sharks follow this nightly ascent. Their bodies glide upward through the water column, moving hundreds of meters during the hours of darkness. During these nocturnal journeys, the environment above becomes temporarily richer with prey. Sharks take advantage of this brief opportunity, feeding among animals that have gathered near the surface under the cover of night. When daylight begins to return, the same sharks descend once more, retreating to the quieter depths where dim light and cooler temperatures offer a more stable refuge. This pattern of vertical migration shapes the daily rhythm of life for many twilight zone species. Their bodies are adapted not only for the conditions at a single depth, but for the long, gradual movement between layers of the sea. The ability to travel efficiently through the water column allows them to track the shifting distribution of food without expending excessive energy. Among these midwater hunters are several families of sharks rarely seen by humans. Species such as the kitefin shark and various dogfish drift through the dim ocean with calm persistence. Their appearances remain familiar in outline, yet subtly altered in proportion, reflecting generations shaped by life in a quieter and darker habitat. Across this immense twilight band that circles the globe, sharks continue their slow passage through a realm defined by scarcity, patience, and delicate perception. Their movements remain unhurried, guided by faint signals drifting through water where daylight has nearly disappeared. Energy moves through the ocean in uneven currents, flowing easily in some places and only faintly in others. In the deeper reaches of the sea, far beneath the productive waters above, this flow becomes quiet and restrained. The abundance that once supported dense communities gradually fades, leaving a world where nourishment arrives slowly and unpredictably. For the sharks that live within these depths, survival depends not on speed or constant motion, but on careful balance between effort and reward. Food exists here, yet it rarely gathers in large concentrations. Small animals drift downward from higher waters after death, their bodies descending through the dark in a steady but scattered fall. Fragments of organic material travel the same path, forming a slow rain of nourishment that settles through the deep ocean over time. Creatures living at these depths rely on this drifting supply, along with occasional encounters with fish or squid passing through the same quiet water. Because food appears irregularly, deep-sea predators must treat energy as a limited resource. Every movement carries a cost, measured in stored fuel within muscle and tissue. Sharks inhabiting these depths often swim with deliberate restraint, their bodies gliding forward in smooth, unhurried motions. Rapid chases would demand energy that might take weeks or months to replace. Instead, patience becomes an effective strategy. Their physiology reflects this careful approach to survival. The internal chemistry that powers their bodies operates at a slower pace than that of many surface-dwelling species. Metabolism, the process by which organisms convert food into usable energy, proceeds gradually in the cold and stable temperatures of deeper water. This slower metabolic rhythm allows sharks to survive long intervals between successful hunts, drawing steadily from stored reserves while minimizing waste. Muscle fibers in many deep-sea sharks are arranged to support endurance rather than sudden acceleration. The body remains capable of swift action when an opportunity arises, yet most of the time, movement unfolds in measured cruising that conserves strength. The surrounding water, dense and quiet, becomes a medium through which these animals drift with subtle adjustments rather than constant propulsion. The influence of limited energy extends beyond daily behavior and into the entire life cycle of these sharks. Growth often occurs slowly, unfolding across decades rather than years. Young individuals take long periods to reach maturity, their bodies gradually increasing in size while adapting to the demanding conditions of the deep ocean. Longevity becomes one of the most remarkable outcomes of this slow biological tempo. Certain deep-sea sharks are believed to live far longer than many animals inhabiting brighter waters. The steady pace of metabolism, combined with reduced environmental disturbance, allows their bodies to function across extended spans of time. Years pass with minimal change, each season blending into the next in a calm progression. This extended lifespan aligns naturally with the scarcity of food. When reproduction requires large investments of energy, producing offspring too frequently could threaten survival. Many deep-sea species therefore reproduce at long intervals, allowing individuals to accumulate sufficient resources before supporting the next generation. Within these quiet depths, life follows a rhythm defined by conservation rather than abundance. Every adaptation reflects the need to stretch energy across long stretches of time. Slow growth, patient movement, and restrained metabolism all form parts of the same biological strategy. As sharks continue to inhabit this demanding environment, their bodies reveal how evolution shapes creatures to match the energy available around them. In the deep ocean, survival belongs to those capable of enduring long intervals of stillness while waiting for the rare arrival of opportunity. Far below the reach of ordinary daylight, the ocean begins to reveal a different kind of illumination. In water where sunlight never arrives, faint sparks appear, scattered through the darkness like distant stars. Many deep-sea organisms create their own light, producing soft glows that flicker briefly before fading again. Among the animals capable of this quiet radiance are certain species of sharks. These sharks belong mainly to a group known as lantern sharks, small predators that inhabit dim, mid-water depths across many oceans of the world. At first glance, their bodies appear dark and unremarkable, often no longer than a human forearm. Yet along their skin lie thousands of tiny structures that allow them to produce light from within their own tissues. These structures are called photophores, Each photophore functions as a minute biological lamp embedded within the shark's skin. Inside these organs, specialized cells generate light through chemical reactions involving molecules that release energy as visible glow. The process occurs without heat, producing a cool luminescence that spreads gently through the surrounding water. When viewed in darkness, a lantern shark does not shine brightly like a torch. Instead, its light appears as a delicate constellation of points arranged across the body. Some species carry these glowing organs primarily along their undersides, while others display patterns extending across fins or along the flanks. The result resembles a faint shimmer drifting slowly through the water. Scientists believe this light serves several subtle purposes. One of the most important is camouflage in the dim ocean above. Even in deep water, faint illumination may filter downward from distant surface layers during daylight hours. A shark swimming below another predator might appear as a dark silhouette against this faint glow. By producing light along its underside, the lantern shark can match the brightness above it, blending seamlessly with the background light and becoming far more difficult to detect. This strategy is known as counter-illumination. Rather than hiding in shadow, the shark erases its outline by carefully balancing its own glow against the dim light filtering through the water above. The effect is delicate and precise, a biological adjustment that allows the animal to move through open water without casting a visible shape. Photophores may also serve a role in communication between individuals of the same species. The arrangement of luminous spots differs slightly from one species to another, forming patterns that may help sharks recognize members of their own kind in the darkness. During encounters between potential mates, these subtle displays could provide visual signals that guide behavior without attracting the attention of larger predators. The glow produced by lantern sharks remains gentle and controlled. Muscles surrounding the photophores can adjust the intensity of the light, dimming or brightening the display as needed. In this way, the shark maintains careful control over when and how its body becomes visible. Among the many species displaying this ability is the velvet belly lantern shark, whose underside carries rows of tiny luminous organs that shine softly in dark water. Other members of the group reveal similar patterns, each species presenting its own arrangement of glowing points that drift quietly through the ocean's middle depths. Observations of these sharks often come from deep submersibles or remotely operated cameras lowered into the ocean at night. When lights from these vehicles dim or disappear, the surrounding darkness sometimes reveals faint moving glows that drift just beyond the edges of visibility. These soft lights belong to living creatures navigating the deep ocean using a form of illumination created within their own bodies. In this lightless environment, the ability to glow transforms the way animals interact with their surroundings. Sharks that carry photophores move through the water, accompanied by their own subtle radiance, a quiet adaptation shaped by life in the dim layers of the sea. Long after many believed the great animals of the ocean had already been cataloged, a small and unfamiliar shark quietly emerged from the darkness of deeper water. It was not discovered during a dramatic chase or a sudden encounter near the surface. Instead, its presence appeared gradually through careful observation, patient research, and the growing reach of modern exploration technology. The shark would eventually receive an unusual name, the ninja lantern shark. The name reflected both its deep black coloration and its elusive nature, qualities that had allowed it to remain unnoticed for so long within the vast midwater depths of the Pacific Ocean. At first glance, the animal appears modest in size, reaching only a few dozen centimeters in length. Its body carries the slender shape typical of lantern sharks, yet its skin displays an especially dark tone, absorbing nearly all available light. In dim water, the shark becomes difficult to distinguish from its surroundings, blending into the background with remarkable effectiveness. This dark appearance inspired the nickname that eventually accompanied its scientific description. Researchers studying preserved specimens noticed how the animal's nearly black body contrasted with the faint glow produced by its light-generating organs. The results suggested a creature that moved through darkness with quiet concealment, revealing only subtle patterns of bioluminescence when viewed closely. The formal recognition of the species occurred only recently, illustrating how much of the deep ocean remains only partially explored. Specimens of the ninja lantern shark were collected during scientific surveys in the Pacific, where research vessels deployed specialized equipment designed to sample life from deeper waters. Nets lowered carefully through the water column retrieved organisms rarely encountered near the surface. When scientists examined these specimens in laboratories, they noticed small differences in anatomy that separated this shark from previously known species. Subtle variations in fin structure, tooth arrangement, and the pattern of photophores along the body revealed that the animal represented a distinct member of the lantern shark family. Careful comparison with museum collections confirmed that it had not yet been formally described. The discovery highlighted the quiet role of technology in revealing life hidden far from human observation. Oceanographic vessels today carry advanced tools capable of reaching depths that earlier generations of scientists could only imagine. Remotely operated vehicles descend through dark water while transmitting video images back to the surface. Sensitive cameras record animals moving through environments where sunlight never arrives. Submersibles designed for human occupants also contribute to this expanding view of the deep sea. Encased in strong pressure-resistant spheres, researchers travel downward into layers of the ocean that once remained inaccessible. Through thick observation windows, they watch the slow movements of deep-sea organisms in their natural surroundings, documenting species that have rarely been seen alive. These technologies extend human presence into places where traditional exploration once ended. Instead of relying solely on specimens retrieved by nets, scientists can now observe behavior, habitat, and movement directly within the deep ocean environment. Each expedition reveals small pieces of a much larger picture. The ninja lantern shark stands as one example among many discoveries made possible by these advances. Its existence reminds researchers that the catalog of marine life is still incomplete, particularly in regions far below the surface. The ocean's deeper layers cover immense areas of the planet, and much of this territory has been visited only briefly by scientific instruments. As exploration continues, the quiet work of observation and classification gradually reveals new forms of life adapted to conditions very different from those near the surface. Small sharks, such as the ninja lantern shark, drift through these dim waters, part of a community that has remained largely hidden until recent decades of careful study. Some sharks survive not by chasing prey across open water, but by taking small portions from animals far larger than themselves. Among the most unusual examples of this approach is the cookie-cutter shark, a species whose feeding method leaves distinctive marks scattered across the bodies of ocean giants. The cookie-cutter shark remains relatively small, rarely growing much longer than half a meter. Its body carries a compact, cylindrical shape that allows it to move steadily through deeper waters where many encounters with prey occur. The The skin often appears dark along the upper surface, while the underside may display lighter tones, helping the animal blend quietly into its surroundings as it drifts through the ocean. Despite its modest size, this shark interacts with some of the largest creatures in the sea. Whales, dolphins, tuna, and even large sharks sometimes carry unusual circular wounds along their bodies. These marks appear as neat plugs missing from muscle or skin, each roughly the size of a small coin. For years, such wounds puzzled researchers who observed them on animals across many parts of the ocean. Eventually, scientists identified the source of these mysterious marks. The cookie-cutter shark approaches larger animals from below and attaches briefly to their bodies. Its lips form a tight seal against the skin of the host, allowing the shark to anchor itself securely for a moment while preparing its unusual bite. The teeth of the cookie-cutter shark differ from those of many other species. Along the lower jaw, the teeth are large and triangular, arranged in a row that forms a sharp cutting edge. The upper teeth remain smaller and more pointed, helping the shark grip the surface of its target. Once attached, the shark performs a rapid twisting motion. The lower jaw rotates slightly while the teeth slice through the flesh of the larger animal. This movement removes a small circular plug of tissue, which the shark consumes before releasing its grip and drifting away into the surrounding water. The result is a precise wound that resembles the shape of a cookie cut from dough, a resemblance that inspired the species' common name. Although the bite removes only a small portion of flesh, it provides the shark with a concentrated meal that requires far less effort than subduing prey of equal size. This feeding strategy proves especially useful in deeper waters where encounters with smaller fish may occur less frequently. Large marine animals pass through these depths during migrations or feeding journeys, creating opportunities for the cookie-cutter shark to obtain nourishment without the need for extended pursuit. The shark's body contains several features that support this unusual lifestyle. Its jaws are capable of protruding slightly forward, allowing the teeth to make firm contact with the surface of a larger animal. The lips create suction that stabilizes the bite during the twisting motion. After completing the cut, the shark releases quickly, minimizing the risk of injury from a much larger creature. Many animals that receive these bites continue swimming with little immediate difficulty. Over time, the wounds often heal, leaving pale scars that remain visible long after the encounter has passed. These marks provide researchers with evidence of how widely cookie-cutter sharks interact with other marine species. Encounters between this small shark and large ocean travelers illustrate a different path for survival in the deep sea. Rather than overpowering prey, the cookie-cutter shark relies on precision and efficiency, taking brief advantage of animals moving through its environment. Within the vast waters below the surface, where energy can be difficult to obtain, this method allows a small predator to gather nourishment from creatures many times its own size, while expending only a short burst of effort. In the colder reaches of the ocean, where water temperatures settle into quiet stability and currents move with patient rhythm, a group of sharks drifts through the depths with unhurried persistence. These animals are known as sleeper sharks, a name that reflects their slow and deliberate movement through environments far removed from the restless energy of shallower seas. Sleeper sharks inhabit some of the planet's coldest marine regions, including deep northern waters where sunlight weakens and temperatures remain only a few degrees above freezing. In these calm conditions, their bodies move with remarkable steadiness. They rarely display the swift acceleration associated with many well-known shark species. Instead, they glide forward in long, measured motions that conserve strength while allowing them to travel steadily through the water. Among the most studied members of this group is the Pacific sleeper shark, This species grows to impressive size, with some individuals reaching lengths greater than 4 meters. Despite such scale, their presence in the ocean often goes unnoticed because their movements remain so gentle and controlled. The body appears broad and heavy, supported by powerful muscles that function efficiently at slow speeds. The skin of these sharks usually carries subdued shades of gray or brown, colors that blend naturally with the dim environments they inhabit. Their eyes appear small compared with those of some other deep-dwelling sharks, suggesting that vision may play a lesser role in their perception of the surrounding world. Other senses likely provide guidance as they move quietly through cold water. Encounters with sleeper sharks are rare, partly because they spend much of their lives far below the surface in regions seldom visited by humans. When sightings do occur, the animals often appear calm and indifferent to nearby activity. Submersible cameras have recorded individuals drifting past rocky slopes and open seafloor landscapes with slow, deliberate strokes of the tail. The feeding habits of sleeper sharks reveal another aspect of their adaptable nature. Rather than relying exclusively on active hunting, these sharks often behave as opportunistic predators. They consume a wide range of food when opportunities arise, including fish, squid, and animals already weakened or injured. In some cases, they may feed on carcasses that settle onto the seafloor, gathering nourishment from remains that drift down from higher waters. This flexible approach allows them to survive in environments where food availability can vary greatly from one location to another. The ocean's deeper layers do not always provide regular encounters with prey, and animals capable of using multiple feeding strategies gain an advantage in such conditions. Researchers studying sleeper sharks have occasionally discovered unexpected items within their stomachs. Remains of seals, octopus, and other large animals have been documented, suggesting that these slow-moving sharks may sometimes capture prey that seems surprisingly swift. Scientists propose that sleeper sharks might approach such animals quietly in dim water or take advantage of moments when prey becomes distracted or weakened. Much about their behavior remains uncertain because direct observation is limited. Sleeper sharks often travel through depths that lie beyond the reach of ordinary diving, and even modern exploration vehicles encounter them only occasionally. As a result, many details of their daily movements and interactions remain hidden within the cold water they inhabit. When cameras do reveal them, the impression they create is one of quiet endurance. Their bodies move steadily through a realm shaped by low temperatures and long stretches of open water. Each slow motion carries them forward without urgency, guided by senses adapted to conditions that favor patience over speed. Within these deeper marine landscapes, sleeper sharks represent another path that evolution has taken among ocean predators. Their presence reflects a life shaped by calm persistence, where survival depends less on rapid pursuit and more on the ability to endure within the quiet rhythms of the deep sea. Far in the northern seas, where water temperatures remain near freezing and seasons pass slowly beneath drifting ice, a massive shark moves through the depths with unhurried persistence. The Greenland shark inhabits these cold regions of the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans, living in an environment where biological processes unfold at a pace far removed from the rapid rhythms of warmer seas. This species grows to impressive size, often exceeding 5 meters in length. Its body appears thick and heavy, supported by broad fins that allow steady movement through the cold water. The skin usually carries muted tones of gray or brown, sometimes marked by pale scars that record encounters across a long life. When seen on camera or encountered by fishing vessels, the shark drifts forward calmly, propelled by slow, deliberate sweeps of the tail. The true distinction of the Greenland shark lies not only in its appearance, but in the remarkable span of time it may inhabit the ocean. Scientific studies examining the age of these sharks have revealed lifespans that extend far beyond those of most other vertebrates. Some individuals appear to live for several centuries, making them among the longest living animals with backbones ever documented. Researchers arrived at this discovery through a technique involving radiocarbon dating. Instead of analyzing bones or teeth, which are absent in sharks, scientists studied the lenses of the animal's eyes. These lenses form early in life and remain largely unchanged afterward. By measuring traces of radioactive carbon preserved within this tissue, scientists were able to estimate when the shark had been born. The results suggested ages that seemed almost improbable. Certain individuals examined during these studies may have been several hundred years old, meaning they were already alive long before many modern scientific instruments existed. Their lives extend across centuries of shifting climates and changing ocean conditions. Such longevity is closely connected to the environment these sharks inhabit. Cold water slows the chemical reactions that drive metabolism within living organisms. For the Greenland shark, this means that growth occurs gradually and energy is used with extreme efficiency. The body operates at a quiet pace, allowing the animal to endure long periods with limited food while conserving its internal resources. This slow metabolism influences nearly every aspect of the shark's life cycle. Young individuals require many years to reach maturity, developing steadily as they move through the cold depths of northern seas. Reproduction occurs infrequently, reflecting the long intervals required to accumulate sufficient energy in an environment where resources may appear only occasionally. Another unusual feature, often associated with Greenland sharks, involves small parasitic organisms that attach to their eyes. These parasites, belonging to a group of crustaceans known as copepods, anchor themselves within the surface tissues of the eye. Over time, they may create cloudy patches that partially obscure the shark's vision. Despite this impairment, the sharks continue moving through their environment with apparent ease. Their reliance on other senses likely compensates for reduced clarity of sight. Subtle chemical signals in the water and faint vibrations produced by nearby animals provide important information about the surrounding environment. Encounters with Greenland sharks remain uncommon because these animals spend much of their lives in deep or remote regions of the Northern Ocean. When researchers observe them through underwater cameras or recover specimens during scientific surveys, the impression is often one of remarkable calm. Their movements unfold slowly, reflecting the cold world that shapes their biology. Within these quiet Arctic waters, the Greenland shark represents a form of life that unfolds across extraordinary spans of time. While human generations rise and pass above the surface, these sharks continue their steady journey through dark and frigid depths, carrying centuries of ocean history within their long, patient lives. In certain regions of the ocean, survival depends less on motion and more on restraint. Sharks inhabiting these quieter depths often move so gradually that their progress through the water becomes almost imperceptible. Instead of swift chases or constant patrols, their bodies drift forward with minimal effort, guided by rhythms shaped by scarcity and patience. Many of these sharks maintain extremely slow cruising speeds. Their tails sweep gently from side to side, producing steady forward movement without demanding excessive energy. The body remains relaxed, supported by fins that stabilize each glide through the surrounding water. This form of travel allows them to cover distance while expending only a small portion of their stored energy. In environments where food may appear unpredictably, conserving energy becomes a central strategy. Each movement must justify its cost. Sharks adapted to these conditions have evolved muscles that function efficiently during prolonged periods of low activity. Rather than relying on explosive bursts of strength, they maintain a quiet endurance that supports long intervals of calm movement. This restrained pace influences how these sharks approach feeding as well. Instead of actively pursuing prey across wide distances, many rely on ambush hunting. The shark positions itself within the water column or near the sea floor and remains nearly motionless, waiting for other animals to wander close enough for a sudden strike. The effectiveness of this strategy depends on subtle positioning and careful awareness of the surrounding environment. Sharks may align themselves with gentle currents that carry chemical signals from nearby organisms. These faint traces reveal the presence of potential prey long before it enters direct view. By remaining still and attentive, the shark allows the water itself to deliver information. When an opportunity finally arrives, the stillness breaks in a brief, controlled motion. The shark accelerates just enough to capture the passing animal, then returns once again to its slow and measured drifting. The entire sequence unfolds quickly, followed by long stretches of calm where the shark resumes its patient watch. Body structure often supports this approach to hunting. Some species possess broad pectoral fins that allow them to hover easily within the water column without constant effort. Others maintain slightly flexible bodies that adjust gently with passing currents, preserving balance while minimizing movement. The overall design favors stability rather than speed. The surrounding environment reinforces this lifestyle. In deeper layers of the ocean, prey animals themselves move cautiously and often travel alone or in small groups. Encounters occur less frequently than in the productive waters above. A predator capable of waiting quietly for long periods may gain more success than one that expends valuable energy searching continuously. Patience, therefore, becomes a powerful adaptation. By reducing unnecessary motion, these sharks stretch their available energy across long intervals. Each meal contributes to survival not only through nourishment but also through the careful management of effort required to obtain it. Observers who encounter such sharks through deep-sea cameras often notice the calm character of their movements. The animals appear to float rather than swim, advancing through the water with a quiet steadiness that reveals little urgency. Their presence reflects an environment where time moves slowly and opportunities arrive without predictable rhythm. Across generations, natural selection has shaped these sharks to match the pace of the world around them. Muscles, fins, and sensory systems all support a life defined by endurance and restraint. The ability to remain still for extended periods becomes as valuable as the ability to strike when the moment finally arrives. Within the deep ocean's quiet expanses, these patient hunters demonstrate that survival sometimes belongs not to the fastest predator, but to the one capable of waiting the longest. In certain quiet depths of the ocean, a shark moves with a form that seems to echo distant chapters of Earth's history. Its body carries proportions and features that differ subtly from many familiar species, as though evolution preserved an older design within the darker waters of the sea. This animal is the six-gill shark, a predator whose lineage stretches far back through the long narrative of marine life. Most sharks alive today share a common anatomical pattern that includes 5 gill slits positioned along each side of the head. The six-gill shark, however, carries an additional opening, bringing the total to 6. These gill slits extend in a graceful arc along the side of the throat, forming a feature that immediately distinguishes the species from many of its relatives. This difference reflects an ancient heritage. Fossil evidence suggests that early sharks often possessed more than 5 gill openings, and the six-gill shark appears to retain this ancestral trait. In many ways, its overall body structure also reflects characteristics seen in earlier shark forms. The head appears broad, the body long and powerful, and the tail extends with an elongated upper lobe that helps generate steady propulsion through the water. Such features have allowed the species to persist across immense spans of geological time. While other sharks gradually evolved into new shapes, suited for fast swimming near the surface or rapid pursuit of prey, the six-gill shark followed a quieter path. It remained associated with deeper waters where environmental conditions change slowly and competition from surface predators becomes less intense. These sharks are capable of descending to remarkable depths. Individuals have been recorded hundreds or even thousands of meters below the surface, navigating layers of water where light becomes scarce and temperatures drop steadily. Their bodies withstand the increasing pressure of these environments with ease, supported by flexible cartilage and tissues adapted to deep water conditions. Despite their size, which can exceed 5 meters in length, encounters between six-gill sharks and humans remain uncommon. Much of their life unfolds in regions rarely visited by divers or fishing vessels. Only occasionally do they rise into shallower waters, where researchers or fishermen may briefly observe them before they return once again to deeper surroundings. When seen through underwater cameras, the six-gill shark moves with calm authority. Its body advances slowly but steadily, propelled by strong yet economical movements of the tail. The wide head carries small eyes that appear adapted to dim environments, allowing the shark to navigate the darker layers where it spends much of its time. Feeding behavior reflects the opportunistic nature often found among deep-dwelling predators. Six-gill sharks consume a variety of prey when available, including fish, squid, and occasionally marine mammals. They may also scavenge from carcasses that settle onto the seafloor, gathering nourishment from the remains of animals that drift down from higher waters. Because sightings are rare, many details of their daily habits remain only partially understood. Scientific expeditions using deep-sea cameras and submersibles have begun revealing glimpses of their movements along continental slopes and open ocean depths. Each observation contributes small pieces to a broader picture of how these ancient sharks live within their shadowed environment. Within the layered structure of the ocean, the six-gill shark represents a lineage that has endured by remaining closely aligned with the quiet stability of deeper habitats. Its extra gill openings and broad, powerful form recall earlier stages of shark evolution, preserved within a species that continues to move slowly through the darker regions of the sea. Across these depths, where human presence remains limited, the six-gill shark persists as a living connection to ancient oceans, carrying anatomical traits that have endured across vast stretches of time. Along certain continental coastlines and deeper offshore slopes, another unusual shark moves through the water carrying anatomical traces from a distant evolutionary past. This species is known as the seven-gill shark, a predator whose body reveals characteristics that resemble forms seen in ancient relatives that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. Like its close relative described earlier, the seven-gill shark possesses more gill openings than the majority of sharks alive today. Instead of the familiar 5, 7 slender slits extend along each side of the head. These openings curve gently backward toward the body, forming a distinctive feature that immediately sets the species apart when viewed closely. The presence of 7 gill slits reflects a connection to earlier stages in shark evolution. Fossil remains from prehistoric oceans show that ancient sharks often displayed greater variation in the number of gill openings. Over time, Most lineages settled into the pattern of five, yet a small group preserved the older arrangement. The seven-gill shark stands among those survivors, carrying forward an anatomical trait that appeared long before many modern species emerged. Its body reinforces this sense of continuity. The head appears broad and slightly flattened, tapering into a long torso supported by powerful muscles. A single dorsal fin rises toward the rear of the back rather than near the center, a placement that differs from the arrangement seen in many other sharks. The tail extends outward in an elongated form that generates smooth propulsion through the water. These features combine to create a predator capable of moving steadily through varied marine environments. Seven-gill sharks inhabit coastal waters in several regions of the world, though they often spend much of their time in deeper areas near continental slopes or offshore basins. In these quieter habitats, the water remains cooler and conditions change gradually across the seasons. Life in deeper environments offers certain advantages for species carrying ancient anatomical designs. In shallower waters, intense competition among fast-moving predators can favor highly specialized forms built for rapid pursuit. Deeper habitats often present fewer direct competitors and a more stable physical setting. For sharks with body plans refined across earlier evolutionary eras, these conditions provide a refuge where older traits remain effective. The seven-gill shark's feeding behavior demonstrates the versatility that has supported its survival across long stretches of geological time. It consumes a wide variety of prey, including fish, rays, squid, and occasionally marine mammals. Rather than relying exclusively on speed, the shark often approaches prey with steady movement before delivering a powerful bite. This adaptability allows the species to take advantage of many feeding opportunities within its environment. In coastal regions, it may patrol rocky reefs or sandy seabeds where fish gather. In deeper waters, it moves along slopes where marine life travels between different layers of the ocean. The ability to exploit varied food sources helps maintain its presence in ecosystems where conditions may shift slowly over time. Observations of seven-gill sharks often come from coastal research sites or underwater cameras placed along deeper marine terrain. When recorded on film, the animal moves with calm confidence, its broad body advancing through the water with measured strokes of the tail. The arrangement of its gill slits remains visible as the shark passes, quietly reflecting a biological structure inherited from ancestors that swam through ancient seas. Within the long narrative of shark evolution, the seven-gill shark illustrates how certain lineages endure with surprisingly little alteration. While countless species have appeared and vanished across geological ages, some forms continue to thrive by remaining closely aligned with the environments that shaped them long ago. Through this persistence, the seven-gill shark carries a living reminder of the deep history embedded within modern oceans. Its presence in deeper marine habitats demonstrates how evolutionary pathways can remain stable when conditions allow ancient designs to remain effective across immense spans of time. Beyond roughly 1,000 meters below the ocean's surface, the character of the sea changes again. The faint glow that once filtered downward through the water column disappears completely, leaving an environment where sunlight never arrives. This region is known as the Midnight Zone, a vast expanse of the ocean defined by permanent darkness and immense depth. Here, the water feels heavier and stiller than in the layers above. The weight of the ocean presses downward with extraordinary force, increasing steadily as depth grows greater. Temperatures settle near freezing, creating an environment where chemical reactions within living bodies proceed slowly and deliberately. The quiet stability of these conditions shapes every organism that survives within this remote realm. Without sunlight, the visual world changes dramatically. Colors no longer carry meaning because the light required to reveal them does not exist. The surroundings appear as endless black water stretching in all directions, interrupted only by occasional glimmers produced by living creatures. These brief flashes and soft glows provide the only illumination within a space that would otherwise remain completely dark. Animals inhabiting the midnight zone often display forms that appear unfamiliar when compared with species from brighter waters. Bodies stretch into unusual shapes, sometimes elongated or loosely structured, allowing them to move efficiently through dense water while conserving energy. Fins may grow delicate and thin, adapted to slow movement rather than rapid pursuit. Many fish and invertebrates develop enlarged mouths relative to their body size. This feature allows them to capture prey that may be encountered only rarely. In a world where meals are unpredictable, the ability to seize whatever food appears becomes essential for survival. Teeth often grow long and slender, forming cages that prevent captured prey from escaping once it enters the jaws. Some creatures develop eyes of unusual size, capable of detecting the faintest trace of light produced by nearby organisms. Others reduce the role of vision entirely, relying instead on senses that detect vibration, chemical signals, or electrical impulses traveling through the surrounding water. Each adaptation reflects the challenge of navigating a landscape where sight alone offers limited guidance. Among these residents of the midnight zone are sharks whose forms differ noticeably from the streamlined predators of brighter regions. Their bodies may appear softer or more flexible, suited to environments where speed provides less advantage than sensitivity and efficiency. Movements become gentle and deliberate, matching the quiet pace of life in these depths. Encounters between animals often occur suddenly, emerging from darkness with little warning. A drifting fish may reveal its presence through a faint glow, or the movement of water may carry subtle vibrations across short distances. Predators and prey alike remain alert to these signals, interpreting the slightest disturbance within the surrounding blackness. The deep sea floor also lies within this zone in many parts of the world's oceans. Along these submerged landscapes, rocky ridges and sediment plains extend across enormous distances. Organic material descending from higher waters occasionally settles here, providing nourishment for scavengers and small animals that patrol the seabed. Exploration of the midnight zone remains a challenge even for modern technology. Specialized submersibles and remotely operated vehicles descend through the water carrying lights and cameras designed to withstand immense pressure. When their beams cut through the darkness, they reveal animals rarely seen by human eyes. Many of these creatures appear almost otherworldly in their shapes and movements. Their bodies reflect generations of adaptation to conditions that differ profoundly from the sunlit ocean above. Yet within the context of their environment, every feature serves a purpose, shaped by the quiet demands of survival. As sharks and other predators move through these shadowed waters, the influence of depth becomes increasingly visible in their forms. The deeper the ocean grows, the more life begins to transform in response to darkness, cold, and pressure. Along certain deep ocean slopes, a shark occasionally appears whose shape differs so dramatically from familiar species that it seems almost misplaced in the modern sea. Its body stretches long and narrow, its head carries an ancient expression, and its movements resemble those of an eel gliding quietly through the water. This animal is known as the frilled shark, a species whose design reflects an evolutionary history extending far into the past. The frilled shark possesses a body that curves and bends with unusual flexibility. Rather than displaying the rigid, torpedo-shaped form seen in many open-water predators, its frame appears elongated and almost serpentine. When it swims, the motion flows in smooth waves that travel from head to tail, producing a slow, undulating glide through the surrounding water. This swimming style resembles that of deep-dwelling eels, more than that of most sharks. The body coils slightly as it advances, allowing the animal to navigate the darker layers of the ocean with quiet precision. Such movement requires less sudden acceleration and suits environments where prey may appear unexpectedly in close proximity. Its head reveals another distinctive feature. Along the throat extend 6 pairs of gill openings that spread outward in loose folds of skin. These folds create the frilled appearance that gives the species its name. When viewed from the side, the gill membranes form a series of soft ridges encircling the neck, giving the shark an appearance unlike that of most modern relatives. The jaws of the frilled shark contain one of the most unusual dental arrangements among sharks. Inside its mouth lie numerous rows of slender teeth, each shaped like a delicate needle. These teeth curve slightly backward and cluster together in dense patterns that resemble tiny barbed hooks. When the jaws close around prey, the teeth interlock to create a firm hold that prevents escape. This arrangement suggests a feeding strategy suited to capturing soft-bodied animals such as squid and small fish that move through deeper waters. Once the prey enters the mouth, the backward-pointing teeth guide it inward while resisting any attempt to struggle free. The entire system operates quietly and efficiently within an environment where opportunities for feeding may occur without warning. Scientists often describe the frilled shark as a living fossil, not because it has remained unchanged in every detail, but because its general body plan resembles forms known from ancient marine deposits. Fossil records show that sharks with similar elongated shapes and distinctive jaws existed millions of years ago. The modern frilled shark appears to preserve many of these early characteristics. Such continuity offers insight into how certain evolutionary designs persist when environmental conditions remain relatively stable. The deeper parts of the ocean change far more slowly than shallow coastal habitats. Temperatures remain steady, sunlight never penetrates, and competition from rapidly evolving species may be reduced. In such settings, ancient anatomical patterns can remain effective for very long periods. Encounters with frilled sharks remain rare because the species spends most of its life at considerable depth. Individuals occasionally appear in deep fishing nets or are recorded by exploration vehicles operating along continental slopes. Each observation offers a brief glimpse of an animal that normally inhabits waters far beyond the reach of ordinary human activity. When seen on camera, the shark's presence often appears almost dreamlike. Its long body drifts forward with gentle undulations, and the wide mouth reveals rows of slender teeth that gleam faintly in artificial light. The creature seems to carry a quiet reminder of earlier oceans within its form. Within the vast darkness of deeper marine layers, the frilled shark continues its slow passage, embodying a lineage whose origins reach far into Earth's distant past. In the dim layers of the ocean, where sunlight never arrives, a shark occasionally appears, whose shape seems unlike nearly any other living species. Its head extends forward in a long, flattened blade, and its body carries a pale coloration that stands out against the surrounding darkness. This unusual animal is the goblin shark, a predator whose anatomy reveals a highly specialized approach to hunting in deep water. The most striking feature of the goblin shark is the extended snout projecting from the front of its head. This structure, often described as flattened and elongated, forms a narrow platform above the mouth. The surface of this snout contains a dense network of sensory organs capable of detecting faint electrical signals in the surrounding water. These signals originate from the muscles and nerves of other animals. Whenever a fish or squid moves, tiny electrical impulses travel outward through the seawater. The goblin shark's snout detects these subtle disturbances, allowing the predator to locate prey even when visibility remains extremely limited. This sensory ability becomes essential in deeper environments where conventional vision provides only partial guidance. Instead of relying on sight alone, the shark interprets electrical cues drifting through the water. In this way, it constructs a quiet map of nearby life, sensing movement that might otherwise remain hidden in darkness. Beneath the elongated snout lies another remarkable adaptation. The jaws of the goblin shark possess an unusual flexibility that allows them to extend outward from the head during feeding. When the shark detects prey nearby, the jaws can suddenly thrust forward in a rapid projection, capturing the animal before it has time to escape. This motion occurs through a combination of specialized ligaments and sliding joints within the skull. At rest, the jaws remain tucked beneath the head, giving the shark a somewhat narrow profile. During a strike, however, the entire jaw structure moves outward, carrying rows of slender teeth directly toward the target. The teeth themselves appear long and pointed, designed to grip soft-bodied prey such as fish and cephalopods that move through deeper waters. Once the jaws close, the teeth hold the captured animal securely while the shark retracts its mouth back toward the head. Another distinctive feature of the goblin shark lies in the appearance of its skin. Unlike many sharks that display darker shades or strong camouflage patterns, the goblin shark often shows a pale pink coloration. This color results from the visibility of blood vessels beneath the skin, which remains relatively thin and translucent. In the darkness of deep water, this coloration does not create a disadvantage. Without sunlight to illuminate the body, the shark's pale tone blends naturally into the subdued environment. The surrounding water absorbs most visible light, allowing the animal to remain largely unnoticed despite its unusual appearance. Observations of goblin sharks are uncommon because the species inhabits depths rarely visited by humans. Most encounters occur when deep-sea fishing operations retrieve individuals from considerable depths or when exploration vehicles capture brief footage of the shark moving through dark water. When seen on camera, the goblin shark often drifts slowly forward, its long snout pointing gently ahead as if scanning the surrounding space. The body moves with calm steadiness, conserving energy while the sensory organs along the snout continue to interpret the faint electrical signals of nearby organisms. Within the quiet ecosystems of the deep ocean, this combination of features allows the goblin shark to thrive. Its elongated snout gathers information from the surrounding water, while its extendable jaws provide a swift and effective means of capture once prey is located. In this way, the goblin shark represents another example of how life adapts to the unique challenges of deeper marine environments, evolving structures that transform darkness and distance into opportunities for survival. In the deeper layers of the ocean, the world is not experienced primarily through sight. Light becomes scarce, outlines dissolve, and distance loses its clarity. Sharks that inhabit these depths move through an environment where vision provides only fragments of information. To navigate and hunt successfully, their bodies rely on other sensory systems that interpret signals carried silently through the water. One of the most remarkable of these systems involves a network of tiny sensory organs known as the ampullae of Lorenzini. These structures appear as small pores scattered across the shark's snout and around the head. Beneath each pore lies a delicate canal filled with a gelatinous substance that connects to specialized nerve cells. This arrangement allows sharks to detect extremely weak electrical signals in the surrounding water. Every living creature generates small electrical impulses through the activity of muscles and nerves. Even the slight contraction of a fish's body produces a field that spreads outward through seawater. The ampullae of Lorenzini respond to these signals with extraordinary sensitivity. In deeper marine environments, this ability becomes a powerful advantage. A hidden animal resting within sediment or drifting quietly nearby still produces electrical activity. The shark's sensory organs detect these faint disturbances and translate them into neural signals that guide the predator toward its target. The process unfolds with subtle precision. As the shark moves through the water, the distribution of electrical signals across the sensory pores changes slightly. By comparing these differences, the shark can determine both the direction and approximate distance of the source. In this way, the surrounding environment becomes a landscape of invisible currents, each carrying information about nearby life. While electroreception reveals the presence of prey, another sense contributes equally to the shark's perception of its surroundings. The sense of smell remains highly developed in many deep-sea species. Water flowing into the shark's nasal openings carries dissolved chemical traces released by animals through skin, waste, or injury. These chemical cues drift slowly through ocean currents, sometimes traveling considerable distances before dispersing completely. A shark encountering such a scent can follow the gradient of increasing concentration until it approaches the source. Even faint traces may guide the predator across large stretches of water, particularly in regions where prey animals appear only occasionally. Together, electroreception and smell create a sensory framework well suited to life in darkness. Each system gathers information that does not depend on light or visibility. Instead of scanning the environment visually, deep-sea sharks interpret signals that pass silently through the water itself. Vision still plays a role, though it often becomes secondary to these other senses. In some species, the eyes grow large to capture the faintest available illumination, while in others, the eyes remain relatively small. Where light remains extremely limited, vision provides only partial awareness of the surroundings. The shark's behavior therefore relies increasingly on signals detected through electrical and chemical pathways. These sensory adaptations influence how sharks move and hunt in deeper waters. Instead of chasing visible prey across long distances, they glide through the ocean, interpreting invisible clues carried by currents. Each faint electrical pulse or drifting scent trail becomes part of a quiet conversation between predator and environment. Observations from deep-sea exploration vehicles occasionally reveal sharks approaching prey with remarkable accuracy, even when visibility remains minimal. Their movements appear calm and deliberate, guided by sensory systems that operate beyond the limits of human perception. Within the silent darkness of the ocean's deeper layers, these adaptations allow sharks to locate food, navigate unfamiliar terrain, and interact with other animals despite the absence of light. The surrounding water becomes not an empty void, but a medium filled with signals, waiting to be interpreted. Through these finely tuned senses, deep-sea sharks transform darkness into a landscape rich with information, allowing them to move confidently through a world where sight alone would offer very little guidance. With every meter of descent into the ocean, the weight of the water above increases. What begins near the surface as a gentle surrounding pressure gradually becomes one of the most powerful physical forces shaping life in the deep sea. At depths where many deep-dwelling sharks live, the pressure of the ocean presses inward with immense strength, far greater than anything experienced at the surface. This pressure increases steadily as depth grows. Roughly every 10 meters adds another layer of weight from the water above. In the deeper zones of the ocean, the accumulated force becomes enormous, pressing against every surface and filling every space that contains fluid. For animals living permanently in these regions, survival depends on bodies capable of functioning within such conditions. Sharks possess several natural advantages that allow them to endure these pressures with remarkable stability. One of the most important lies in the structure of their skeletons. Unlike many other vertebrates whose bones are composed of rigid mineralized tissue, sharks are built primarily from cartilage. This material forms a strong yet flexible framework throughout the body. Cartilage contains less dense mineral content than bone and can tolerate compression more easily. Under intense pressure, it bends slightly rather than fracturing. This flexibility allows the skeleton of a shark to maintain its structure even in environments where the surrounding water exerts tremendous force. The body remains resilient, capable of absorbing the pressure without losing its essential form. Another advantage arises from the way sharks regulate buoyancy within the water column. Many bony fish maintain position in the water using a gas-filled structure called a swim bladder. Gas compresses significantly under increasing pressure, which would make such a structure difficult to maintain in deeper environments. Sharks follow a different strategy that avoids this challenge entirely. Instead of relying on gas, many sharks possess a large liver filled with specialized oils. One of the most common of these substances is squalene, a low-density compound that helps reduce the overall weight of the body relative to the surrounding water. Because oil does not compress in the same way as gas, this system continues functioning effectively even as pressure rises. The presence of this oil-rich liver allows sharks to maintain a balanced position within the water without requiring constant swimming. By adjusting subtle movements of the fins and body, they remain neutrally buoyant or gently sinking, depending on their needs. This method proves especially valuable in deep environments where energy conservation becomes essential. Other aspects of the shark's body also contribute to its resilience under pressure. Tissues throughout the body contain fluids that distribute external forces evenly across cells and organs. Because liquids resist compression, they help maintain the stability of internal structures even when the surrounding water presses inward with great intensity. The absence of large air-filled cavities within the body further enhances this stability. Many deep-sea animals share this characteristic, avoiding internal spaces where gas could collapse under pressure. Instead, their bodies remain compact and fluid-filled, allowing them to withstand depths that would otherwise damage delicate structures. These combined adaptations enable sharks to move through environments that would be inhospitable to many other organisms. Their cartilage skeletons provide flexible strength, while oil-based buoyancy systems allow stable movement without reliance on compressible gases. Together, these features create a body well-suited to the immense forces of the deep ocean. Within the quiet darkness below, where the ocean's weight grows heavier with every meter of depth, sharks continue their steady passage. Their anatomy reflects generations of adaptation to pressure that would overwhelm many surface-dwelling creatures, allowing them to thrive in regions where the sea itself presses with extraordinary strength. In the deeper parts of the ocean, time seems to stretch, movements slow, growth unfolds gradually, and many biological rhythms proceed with quiet patience. This slower pace extends beyond feeding and metabolism into one of the most fundamental aspects of life, reproduction. For sharks inhabiting deep water, the process of creating the next generation often unfolds over remarkably long intervals. Many deep-sea shark species reproduce far less frequently than their relatives in warmer, more productive waters. The conditions surrounding them shape this pattern. Food may appear only occasionally, and the energy required to produce offspring must be gathered slowly over long periods. As a result, reproduction becomes an infrequent but carefully balanced event. Instead of producing large numbers of young at once, many of these sharks invest heavily in only a few offspring. The pups that eventually enter the ocean are often well developed and capable of independent survival soon after birth. This approach reflects a strategy focused on quality rather than quantity, ensuring that each young shark begins life with the strength needed to endure a demanding environment. The development of these pups occurs within the mother's body during a gestation period that may last for extended lengths of time. In some deep-sea species, pregnancy can continue for many months or even several years before birth occurs. During this period, the embryos grow steadily while protected within the mother, drawing nourishment that supports their gradual formation. Such long gestation periods allow the developing sharks to reach a substantial size before they enter the open water. When birth finally takes place, the pups emerge as miniature versions of their parents, already equipped with functional senses and the ability to swim independently. This early readiness increases their chances of surviving in regions where resources may be difficult to obtain. The slow pace of reproduction carries significant consequences for the overall population of deep-sea sharks. Because each adult produces only a small number of young and reproduction occurs at long intervals, population growth proceeds very gradually. Even small changes in survival rates can influence the long-term stability of these species. In ecosystems where food remains scarce and environmental conditions stay relatively stable, this strategy often proves successful. The slow rhythm of reproduction aligns with the slow pace of life throughout the surrounding environment. Sharks grow gradually, reproduce infrequently, and may live for long periods while maintaining a stable population within their habitat. However, the same characteristics that allow these species to persist in deep environments also make them vulnerable to disturbances. When individuals are removed from the population through fishing or other human activities, the number of young produced each year may not be sufficient to replace them quickly. Recovery from such losses can therefore require many years or even decades. Scientists studying deep-sea sharks continue working to understand the details of their reproductive cycles. Observations remain limited because many species inhabit depths rarely accessible to direct research. Specimens collected during scientific surveys provide clues about pregnancy, embryo development, and the timing of reproductive events. Through these studies, researchers gradually assemble a picture of how life continues across generations in the darker layers of the ocean. Each discovery reveals another aspect of the delicate balance that allows sharks to endure in environments where energy arrives slowly and opportunities remain uncertain. Within these quiet depths, reproduction becomes an act shaped by patience and careful investment. A small number of well-prepared offspring enter the ocean, carrying forward a lineage that has adapted to the steady rhythms of deep water over long stretches of time. Growth in the deep ocean unfolds with unusual patience. In waters far below the reach of daily sunlight, many processes that appear rapid near the surface begin to stretch across much longer spans of time. For sharks inhabiting these depths, the path from birth to adulthood often advances slowly, shaped by conditions that offer only limited resources and quiet stability. One of the most important influences on this gradual growth is the scarcity of food. In deeper layers of the sea, prey animals do not gather in large, predictable schools. Encounters occur less frequently, and meals may arrive separated by long intervals. Sharks living in this environment must adapt their biology to function within this uncertain rhythm of nourishment. Because energy enters the body only occasionally, growth cannot proceed quickly. The tissues of the shark expand slowly, adding mass and strength over many years rather than within a short period. Each meal contributes to the careful accumulation of resources that sustain both daily activity and long-term development. This slow accumulation of energy connects closely with the metabolic pace of deep-sea sharks. Metabolism governs how rapidly the body converts food into usable energy and how quickly cellular processes unfold. In cold, stable water, metabolic reactions proceed more gradually than they do in warmer environments. The result is a biological tempo that favors endurance rather than rapid change. The muscles, organs, and internal systems of these sharks therefore operate at a measured pace. Energy expenditure remains low, allowing the animal to survive long intervals without feeding. Yet the same efficiency that supports survival also slows the rate at which new tissue forms. Growth becomes a quiet process, unfolding across decades rather than years. Another consequence of this slow development appears in the age at which deep-sea sharks reach maturity. Many species require extended periods before they become capable of reproduction. While some coastal sharks may reproduce within a relatively short span of years, their deep-water relatives often take far longer before producing offspring of their own. During this prolonged juvenile stage, the shark gradually approaches its adult size and physiological stability. Each passing year adds only modest increments of growth, yet these small changes accumulate over time. Eventually, the animal reaches maturity, prepared to continue the cycle of reproduction that sustains the population. The combination of slow growth and late maturity creates a delicate balance within deep-sea ecosystems. Populations remain stable when adult individuals survive for long periods and reproduce occasionally. Because the environment changes slowly, this pattern has supported the persistence of many species across vast spans of time. However, these same biological traits present challenges when external pressures affect the population. If large numbers of individuals are removed through fishing or other disturbances, the natural rate of replacement may not keep pace. Young sharks require many years before contributing to reproduction, and the small number of offspring produced by each adult limits how quickly the population can recover. For this reason, scientists studying deep-sea sharks often emphasize the importance of careful conservation. Understanding the slow rhythm of their lives allows researchers and policymakers to recognize how easily these species can be affected by sudden changes in their environment. Long-term studies continue to examine growth patterns in deep-sea sharks by analyzing structures such as vertebrae and other tissues that record subtle traces of age. These investigations gradually reveal how individuals progress through decades of life beneath the ocean's darker layers. Within the quiet depths, growth does not hurry. It unfolds through patient accumulation, guided by a world where energy arrives slowly and life adjusts to the steady passage of time. Some parts of the ocean remain so quiet and undisturbed that they serve as beginnings. In these calmer regions, Far from crowded coastal ecosystems, certain sharks appear to bring their young into the world. These locations function as hidden nurseries, places where the earliest moments of life unfold in conditions that provide subtle advantages for survival. Scientists studying deep-sea sharks have gradually gathered evidence suggesting that some species give birth within deeper habitats rather than near the surface. Observations from research trawls and underwater exploration have revealed juvenile sharks inhabiting areas far below the bright layers of the ocean. These young individuals often appear in regions where adults are less frequently encountered, suggesting that the two life stages may occupy different parts of the marine landscape. Such separation between generations may offer important protection. Larger predators tend to concentrate in regions where prey animals gather in abundance. In deeper waters, where food remains limited and activity unfolds at a slower pace, the density of predators may be lower. For newly born sharks, this environment can provide a measure of safety during the vulnerable early stages of life. The physical conditions of deeper habitats may also contribute to their suitability as nurseries. Temperature, pressure, and water movement often remain remarkably stable at depth. Unlike shallow coastal zones that experience strong seasonal fluctuations, deeper waters change slowly across time. For developing young animals, this stability allows growth to proceed within a consistent environment. In such settings, newly born sharks can gradually strengthen their bodies and refine the sensory abilities that will guide them throughout adulthood. Their early movements may be cautious and deliberate, exploring the surrounding terrain while learning to interpret the subtle signals carried through the water. Each encounter with prey or shifting current becomes part of a quiet process of adaptation. The seafloor itself sometimes plays a role in these nursery environments. Submerged slopes, rocky outcrops, and gentle sediment plains create varied terrain where young sharks can move with relative security. These landscapes may provide shelter from stronger currents or offer areas where prey animals gather in small numbers. Within these spaces, the young predators practice the slow hunting strategies that characterize many deep-sea species. Evidence for these nursery grounds often emerges through careful scientific observation. When researchers survey deep ocean habitats using specialized equipment, they sometimes recover small sharks whose size indicates recent birth. In other cases, cameras lowered into the depths record juvenile individuals moving close to the seafloor or drifting along quiet underwater slopes. These discoveries gradually reveal patterns in how deep sea sharks organize their life cycles. Adults may travel widely through different depths of the ocean while feeding and reproducing, yet certain areas appear to serve as consistent places where new life begins. Over time, such regions become essential components of the broader ecosystem. The existence of hidden nurseries highlights the complexity of deep ocean environments. Although these regions may appear empty at first glance, they contain carefully balanced habitats that support the earliest stages of life for species adapted to darkness and pressure. Each young shark emerging into this world carries instincts shaped by countless generations that relied on similar protected spaces. Within the vast depths of the ocean, these nursery grounds remain largely unseen by human observers. Their quiet landscapes nurture the next generation of sharks in conditions that allow slow growth and gradual development. In this way, the deep sea continues to sustain life across time, offering hidden beginnings within its calm and enduring waters. Each day in the ocean begins with a quiet descent. As daylight spreads across the surface waters, countless animals gradually sink toward deeper layers. Fish, squid, and drifting invertebrates retreat from the brightness above, slipping downward into darker regions where the sunlight cannot easily reach them. This movement unfolds across vast areas of the sea, forming a daily rhythm known as vertical migration. Among the creatures participating in this slow journey are certain species of sharks. Unlike many predators that remain within a single depth range, these sharks move repeatedly between different layers of the ocean. Their lives unfold along a vertical pathway that connects the dim depths with the distant waters above. During daylight hours, these sharks often remain at deeper levels, where conditions remain cooler and darker. In these regions, the ocean feels quiet and movement through the water occurs with deliberate calm. The animals glide slowly through the surrounding darkness, conserving energy while remaining attentive to subtle signals carried by the currents. As evening approaches and sunlight fades at the surface, a gradual transformation begins. Many smaller marine animals that spent the day at depth begin rising upward through the water column. Squid, lanternfish, and numerous other species ascend toward shallower layers where food becomes more abundant under the cover of night. The sharks that share this environment often follow the same path. With steady movements, they begin ascending through the ocean, traveling hundreds of meters upward. The journey unfolds without urgency, guided by the distribution of prey rather than by light itself. Their bodies adapt easily to the changing pressure and temperature encountered during the climb. By the time darkness fully settles across the surface waters, the sharks have reached regions far above their daytime depths. Here they encounter fish and squid that have gathered to feed within the upper layers of the ocean. These nightly gatherings create opportunities for predators to hunt among animals that are temporarily concentrated in a relatively small vertical space. The sharks move through these waters with quiet precision, using sensory cues to locate prey drifting nearby. Electrical signals, faint chemical traces, and subtle vibrations carried through the water reveal the presence of other creatures moving within the darkness. Each successful encounter provides nourishment before the next stage of the daily cycle begins. As morning approaches and the first light begins to filter through the ocean surface, the migrating animals gradually reverse their movement. Fish and squid sink downward once again toward deeper layers, where daylight cannot reach them easily. The sharks that follow them also begin their descent, returning to the depths where they will remain until the next evening. This daily vertical migration involves an extraordinary number of marine organisms. Scientists consider it one of the largest regular movements of animal life on the planet. Every 24 hours, billions of creatures move up and down through the ocean's layers, linking distant depths with the waters closer to the surface. For sharks participating in this pattern, the migration allows them to track prey that would otherwise remain scattered across different habitats. By moving between layers, they gain access to feeding opportunities that shift with the cycle of day and night. The ocean becomes not a fixed landscape, but a dynamic space where life travels continuously through vertical pathways. Observations from scientific instruments and deep-sea exploration vehicles have revealed glimpses of these migrations unfolding in the darkness. Echoes from sonar equipment show dense layers of animals rising through the water after sunset, while cameras capture predators moving quietly among them. Within this vertical movement, sharks occupy an important role as hunters navigating the boundaries between different marine worlds. Their daily journeys connect deep water habitats with distant surface layers, tracing a path that repeats with the steady rhythm of the turning earth. Far below the bright waters of the upper ocean, entire ecosystems unfold in quiet balance. Life here moves slowly, shaped by limited energy and long intervals between feeding opportunities. Within these deep environments, sharks occupy an important position in the network of relationships that connects predators, prey and the steady movement of nutrients through the sea. As predators, many deep-sea sharks influence the distribution and behavior of other animals living around them. Fish, squid, and various invertebrates share the same dark habitats, each species adjusting its movement patterns and feeding habits in response to the presence of larger hunters. Even when a shark is not actively pursuing prey, its presence alters the surrounding environment. Animals that might otherwise gather densely often remain scattered across wider areas. This dispersal reduces competition for limited food resources and prevents any single species from dominating the ecosystem. In this way, the predator's role extends beyond individual hunting events. The possibility of predation shapes how other animals organize their lives within the deep ocean. Many sharks inhabiting these depths also display a flexible feeding strategy that includes scavenging. In a realm where food may appear unexpectedly, the ability to consume a variety of available resources becomes essential. When the body of a fish, squid, or marine mammal sinks through the water and settles on the seafloor, it represents a sudden concentration of nourishment within an otherwise sparse environment. Sharks often arrive among the first animals to investigate such remains. Guided by chemical signals drifting through the water, they locate carcasses and begin feeding. Their strong jaws allow them to remove large pieces of tissue, breaking down the remains into smaller fragments that become accessible to other scavengers. This process supports a cascade of feeding activity among numerous deep-sea organisms. Smaller fish, crustaceans, and invertebrates gather around the site, each consuming portions of the available material. Over time, the entire carcass disappears, its nutrients redistributed across many layers of the ecosystem. Through both predation and scavenging, sharks contribute to the movement of energy through deep ocean habitats. By consuming prey or carrion and later releasing nutrients through waste and decomposition, they help maintain a cycle that supports life across the surrounding community. The presence of these predators also contributes to the stability of deep-sea ecosystems. Without larger animals regulating population sizes, certain prey species might multiply beyond the limits supported by the environment. Such imbalances could lead to rapid depletion of limited food resources, affecting many other organisms that depend on the same supply. Sharks therefore act as a moderating influence, maintaining equilibrium among the species that share their habitat. Their hunting removes weaker or more vulnerable individuals from prey populations, while their scavenging ensures that organic material does not remain unused within the ecosystem. Research exploring these relationships continues through the use of deep-sea cameras and long-term monitoring equipment placed along seafloor habitats. These instruments record the arrival of predators at feeding sites and reveal the complex interactions that unfold around each opportunity for nourishment. The images captured during such studies show sharks approaching slowly through the dark water, investigating the surroundings with careful movements. Other animals gather soon after, forming temporary communities that revolve around the available food before gradually dispersing again into the surrounding depths. Within this quiet cycle of arrival, feeding, and departure, the role of sharks becomes clear. They serve not only as hunters, but also as participants in the ongoing redistribution of energy that sustains life throughout the deep ocean. Across these vast and shadowed habitats, the balance of marine ecosystems depends on the presence of such predators, whose actions help shape the rhythm of life beneath the sea. Long before the first humans studied the ocean, sharks were already moving through ancient seas that covered much of the earth. Their history stretches back more than 400 million years, leaving scattered traces preserved within layers of stone formed on the floors of prehistoric oceans. These fossils offer quiet glimpses into earlier worlds and reveal how some deep-dwelling sharks today still carry echoes of those distant ancestors. Unlike animals with solid bones, sharks leave behind relatively delicate remains. Their skeletons are composed largely of cartilage, a material that rarely fossilizes well. Yet the ocean preserves another part of their anatomy with remarkable durability. Shark teeth, hardened with dense minerals, accumulate in sediment and endure across immense spans of time. Over millions of years, these teeth settle into layers of rock, forming a record that scientists can study long after the animals themselves have vanished. By examining the shapes and arrangements of fossil teeth, researchers reconstruct the diversity of ancient sharks that once inhabited the seas. Each discovery adds another fragment to the long narrative of shark evolution. Among these fossils appear species that display unusual features associated with deeper marine environments. Some possessed elongated bodies, slender teeth, or jaw structures suited for grasping soft prey moving through dim waters. These characteristics resemble traits seen in certain modern sharks that still inhabit deeper layers of the ocean today. The resemblance between fossil species and living sharks suggests a remarkable continuity across geological time. In several cases, modern species appear to retain body plans that changed only gradually over millions of years. While many groups of animals underwent rapid transformation as environments shifted, some deep-sea sharks followed a quieter evolutionary path. One reason for this continuity lies in the stability of deep ocean habitats. Near the surface, coastlines shift, climates fluctuate, and ecosystems change relatively quickly. In contrast, the deeper layers of the sea experience fewer dramatic alterations over time. Temperature, pressure, and darkness remain consistent across vast stretches of geological history. Within such stable environments, certain anatomical designs may remain effective for long periods without requiring major modification. A body structure well suited for slow movement, patient hunting, and energy conservation continues to function reliably generation after generation. As a result, some deep-sea sharks today resemble forms that swam through ancient oceans long before modern species evolved. Fossil discoveries occasionally reveal species whose overall shapes appear strikingly familiar when compared with living sharks, such as the frilled shark or certain deep-water dogfish. The similarities extend beyond teeth alone. Jaw proportions, body outlines, and fin arrangements sometimes reflect patterns preserved across immense spans of time. These connections between past and present highlight how evolutionary change unfolds at different speeds depending on environmental conditions. In rapidly shifting habitats, species may evolve quickly in response to new challenges. In more stable settings, natural selection may preserve existing traits that continue to provide advantages. Modern exploration of deep marine habitats reinforces these insights. When submersible cameras record sharks moving slowly through dark waters, the animals sometimes appear almost timeless. Their forms echo the outlines suggested by fossils embedded in ancient rock, linking the living ocean to its distant geological past. Through the study of fossils and living species together, scientists gain a broader perspective on the history of sharks in the deep sea. Each preserved tooth, each observation of a modern species contributes to a continuous story that spans hundreds of millions of years. Within the ocean's deeper layers, life has carried forward designs shaped in ancient seas, allowing certain sharks to remain living reflections of an evolutionary heritage that began long before the modern world emerged. The deeper parts of the ocean remained unseen for most of human history. Long before scientists could explore these regions directly, the depths existed as a hidden landscape far beyond the reach of ordinary observation. Even when ships traveled across the surface above, the vast world below remained silent and largely unknown. Only in recent decades has technology allowed researchers to descend into these remote habitats and witness the creatures living there. Modern deep-sea exploration depends on specialized vehicles designed to travel through immense pressure and darkness. Among the most widely used are remotely operated vehicles, often called ROVs. These machines descend from research vessels while connected to the surface by long cables that transmit power and data. Pilots and scientists aboard the ship guide the vehicle through the depths using control systems that respond to every movement of its propellers and mechanical arms. ROVs carry powerful lights and high-resolution cameras capable of recording life in environments where sunlight never reaches. As the vehicle glides through the water, its beams illuminate animals that have rarely encountered artificial light. Fish, invertebrates, and occasionally sharks appear within the frame, revealing forms and behaviors that remained unknown only a few decades ago. The cameras aboard these vehicles play a crucial role in expanding scientific knowledge. Instead of relying solely on specimens retrieved by fishing gear, researchers can now observe animals in their natural surroundings. Movement, posture, and interaction with the environment become visible through carefully recorded footage. In addition to remotely operated vehicles, another form of exploration allows scientists to descend directly into the deep ocean. These craft are known as manned submersibles. Built with thick pressure-resistant hulls, they carry small crews of researchers into depths where the surrounding water exerts tremendous force. Inside the compact interior, scientists watch the seafloor and open water through strong viewing ports. Submersible dives often proceed slowly and deliberately. As the craft descends, the last traces of surface light disappear above. Eventually, the surrounding water becomes entirely dark, and only the vehicle's lamps reveal the shapes of animals passing through the beam. Within this narrow circle of illumination, species that spend their lives in deep habitats sometimes appear for brief moments before drifting away again. These encounters have revealed sharks that scientists rarely observed before the development of such technology. Cameras have recorded slow-moving predators cruising along rocky slopes, hovering near the seafloor, or gliding quietly through open water. In some cases, the footage has shown species whose behavior remained almost entirely unknown. The ability to document these animals without capturing them has transformed deep-sea research. Many sharks, inhabiting great depths, suffer injury or stress when brought rapidly to the surface. By observing them in place through cameras and submersibles, scientists can study their movement, habitat preferences, and interactions without disturbing their natural conditions. Exploration technology continues to improve as engineers develop more capable vehicles and imaging systems. Modern cameras record detailed footage even in extremely low light, while navigation equipment allows researchers to guide their vehicles precisely along underwater terrain. Some expeditions now deploy long-term monitoring devices that remain on the seafloor for months, recording passing animals over extended periods. Each descent into the deep ocean adds new observations to the scientific record. Sharks, once known only from rare specimens, occasionally appear on camera, confirming their presence in specific habitats. Sometimes entirely unfamiliar species come into view, prompting further investigation and careful classification. Through these technologies, the hidden layers of the ocean gradually become more visible. Submersibles and remotely operated vehicles open a window into environments that remained inaccessible for centuries. Within the soft glow of their lights, sharks move slowly through dark water, revealing lives that had long unfolded beyond human sight. Even in the present day, the catalog of shark species remains unfinished. While many animals of the surface ocean have been studied for centuries, the deeper parts of the sea continue to reveal species that scientists had never previously documented. Each new discovery reminds researchers that large portions of marine biodiversity still remain beyond complete understanding. In recent decades, several newly identified sharks have emerged from scientific expeditions exploring deeper habitats. Among the most frequent discoveries are members of the lantern shark and cat shark families, groups that inhabit dim layers of the ocean where observation remains difficult. These sharks often possess small bodies and subtle differences in anatomy that distinguish one species from another. Lantern sharks, in particular, illustrate how diverse deep-sea sharks can be. Many species appear similar at first glance, sharing compact forms and rows of tiny light-producing organs along their bodies. Yet careful study of their fins, teeth, and photophore patterns reveals distinct species adapted to specific regions or depths. Researchers analyzing specimens collected during deep ocean surveys sometimes realize that they are examining a shark never formally described before. Cat sharks represent another group where new species continue to emerge from scientific study. These sharks often inhabit seafloor environments along continental slopes and deep basins. Their bodies display delicate patterns of spots or stripes that vary among species, creating subtle visual clues that help scientists distinguish them. In some cases, individuals initially believed to belong to known species later proved to represent entirely new members of the group after closer examination. The ongoing discovery of sharks reflects how little of the deep ocean has been thoroughly explored. Vast areas of seafloor remain rarely visited by research vessels or underwater vehicles. Many habitats extend thousands of meters below the surface, where pressure, darkness, and remote location make exploration challenging and expensive. Because of these obstacles, only a small fraction of deep marine environments has been studied in detail. Even regions that have been surveyed occasionally may reveal new organisms when revisited with improved technology or different sampling methods. Each expedition provides opportunities to encounter species that have remained hidden simply because few observers have entered their habitat. Modern techniques now allow scientists to examine deep-sea biodiversity with greater precision. High-resolution cameras capture animals moving through their natural surroundings, while genetic analysis helps researchers identify subtle differences between populations that appear visually similar. By studying DNA alongside physical characteristics, scientists sometimes recognize that what once seemed to be a single widespread species actually represents several distinct ones. Museums and research institutions also play an important role in this process. Specimens collected during past expeditions are preserved carefully in scientific collections, allowing later researchers to re-examine them with new methods. Occasionally, these archived specimens reveal overlooked differences that lead to the recognition of a previously unknown species. Through this careful work, the number of known shark species continues to grow. Each new description expands scientific understanding of how sharks have adapted to diverse marine environments across the planet. The discoveries also highlight the remarkable variety of life that exists in regions where sunlight never reaches. For scientists who study deep-sea ecosystems, the search for undiscovered species remains an ongoing endeavor. Expeditions continue to lower instruments and vehicles into the depths, documenting animals that have rarely encountered human observation. Within these shadowed habitats, sharks glide quietly through waters that still hold many secrets. With each careful survey and each newly described species, researchers add another piece to the evolving picture of life in the deep ocean. For much of human history, the deeper parts of the ocean remained largely untouched by direct activity. Fishing fleets concentrated near coasts or within shallower waters where nets and lines could easily reach the seafloor. Far below those familiar regions, deep habitats continued their slow rhythms with little interference. In recent decades, however, technology has gradually extended human presence into these remote environments. Modern fishing vessels now possess equipment capable of operating at far greater depths than earlier generations could reach. Long lines carrying thousands of baited hooks descend deep into the water, while specialized trawls sweep along continental slopes where many deep-sea species live. These methods allow fisheries to harvest animals that inhabit regions once considered inaccessible. As fishing pressure expands into deeper waters, sharks that spend their lives in these habitats sometimes become unintended participants in these operations. Many are not the primary target of fishing activities. Instead, they are captured incidentally while vessels pursue other species such as deep-dwelling fish or squid. This unintended capture is known as bycatch. For deep-sea sharks, bycatch can represent a significant challenge. Nets and long lines do not distinguish between species moving through the same environment. A shark encountering bait or swimming through a fishing line may become entangled or hooked, even when the fishery was not designed to catch it. Once brought to the surface, survival may be difficult because the rapid change in pressure can damage internal tissues. The vulnerability of these sharks arises partly from the biological characteristics that define their lives in deep water. Many species grow slowly, reach maturity only after many years, and produce relatively few offspring during their lifetimes. These traits evolved within stable environments where sudden changes in population size were rare. When fishing removes individuals faster than new sharks can mature and reproduce, populations may decline gradually over time. Because growth and reproduction occur at such slow rates, recovery can require many years, even after fishing pressure decreases. The effects may remain hidden for long periods before becoming fully apparent. Scientists studying deep-sea ecosystems have therefore begun paying close attention to how fishing activities influence these species. Surveys of commercial catches sometimes reveal the presence of sharks that were not previously known to interact with fisheries. By examining these records, researchers gain insight into which species are most frequently affected. Efforts to understand these impacts have also encouraged the development of management strategies designed to reduce unintended capture. Some fisheries experiment with modified gear or fishing practices that minimize encounters with non-target species. In other cases, regulations limit fishing in areas where vulnerable animals are known to occur. These approaches reflect a growing awareness that deep-sea ecosystems operate according to biological rhythms quite different from those of surface waters. The slow pace of life in these environments means that disturbances can persist for long periods before natural recovery occurs. Careful management, therefore, becomes an important component of maintaining the stability of these ecosystems. Research vessels and monitoring programs continue gathering information about shark populations living in deeper habitats. By tracking changes in abundance and distribution, scientists hope to identify patterns that reveal how human activity influences these animals over time. Within the vast darkness of the deep ocean, sharks still follow the quiet patterns shaped by millions of years of evolution. Yet the reach of modern technology has begun to intersect with these ancient rhythms, connecting human activity to environments once separated by great distance and depth. Far beneath the familiar surface of the ocean lies a world that remains only partially known. Even after centuries of exploration across the seas, the deeper regions of the planet's waters continue to hold vast areas that have never been directly observed. When viewed on maps, the seafloor stretches across enormous distances, forming valleys, ridges, and plains that extend far beyond the reach of routine scientific study. Much of this landscape exists in darkness, where sunlight never arrives. The immense pressure and cold temperatures of these depths make exploration difficult, requiring specialized equipment capable of withstanding extreme conditions. As a result, only a small fraction of the deep ocean has been surveyed carefully by scientists. Within this immense and largely unseen environment, sharks continue to inhabit habitats that remain hidden from regular observation. Many species have been recorded only rarely, appearing in fishing nets or in brief images captured by exploration vehicles. Others may exist in regions where no human instrument has yet traveled. Because the ocean covers more than 2/3 of the planet's surface, its deeper layers represent one of the largest living environments on Earth. Each continental slope, underwater plateau, and abyssal plain may host communities of animals adapted to the unique conditions of that particular region. Among these communities, sharks occupy roles as predators, scavengers, and participants in the wider network of marine life. Scientists studying these environments often suspect that numerous species have yet to be formally identified. Small differences in anatomy, behavior, or genetic structure can distinguish one species from another, yet these variations become visible only when researchers are able to collect or observe specimens closely. In regions visited only occasionally, such discoveries may remain waiting for future expeditions. The possibility of undiscovered sharks reflects the complexity of deep marine ecosystems. Animals living at great depths often possess features that make them difficult to detect. Some move slowly through open water, where encounters with research equipment are rare. Others inhabit steep underwater terrain or remote basins that few exploration missions have reached. Technological progress continues to expand the boundaries of what scientists can observe in these environments. Improved cameras now record detailed footage in extremely low light, while robotic vehicles travel farther and remain submerged longer than earlier designs allowed. Advanced navigation systems guide exploration teams across seafloor landscapes with increasing precision. At the same time, genetic analysis offers new ways to identify species that might otherwise appear nearly identical. By comparing sequences of DNA, researchers can recognize subtle differences that reveal hidden diversity within deep ocean populations. This approach sometimes uncovers previously unrecognized species that share similar outward forms but represent distinct evolutionary lineages. Future expeditions will likely continue revealing animals that have remained unknown simply because their habitats have seldom been explored. Each new discovery expands scientific understanding of how life adapts to darkness, pressure, and limited energy. Sharks inhabiting these depths contribute to this broader picture, illustrating the variety of forms that evolution can produce under such conditions. As exploration gradually extends into deeper regions, the ocean reveals itself not as an empty expanse, but as a complex network of ecosystems still waiting to be studied. The quiet movements of sharks through these waters remind researchers that much of the planet's biodiversity remains hidden beneath the waves. Within this immense and shadowed environment, countless organisms continue their lives far beyond ordinary observation, forming communities that future research will slowly bring into clearer view. Across hundreds of millions of years, the ocean has shaped sharks into a remarkable variety of forms. Long before forests spread across continents or birds filled the skies, these animals were already moving through ancient seas. Their lineage endured through changing climates, shifting coastlines, and the rise and fall of countless other species. Through all of this time, the ocean itself remained the quiet architect guiding their evolution. The influence of depth plays a central role in that long story. As the sea descends from bright surface waters into colder and darker layers, each region presents its own challenges and opportunities. Light fades, pressure increases, and food becomes more difficult to find. Within this vertical world, sharks gradually adapt to the conditions surrounding them. Near the upper ocean, streamlined bodies and powerful muscles support active hunting in waters filled with movement. As depth increases, other traits begin to appear. Some species develop larger eyes capable of gathering faint light drifting from above. Others rely less on sight and more on the subtle signals carried through the water, interpreting chemical traces and electrical fields that reveal nearby life. Still deeper, the forms of sharks shift even further. Bodies become softer and more flexible, suited to quiet environments where patience matters more than speed. Jaws evolve unusual structures for capturing rare prey, and sensory systems refine their ability to detect signals that remain invisible to human perception. Each adaptation reflects the quiet pressure of survival in habitats shaped by darkness and distance. Over long spans of time, these conditions guide the emergence of species that appear unfamiliar compared with the sharks most people imagine. Lantern sharks that produce their own light move through dim waters. Ancient lineages like the frilled shark glide with serpentine motion through deeper slopes. Goblin sharks extend their jaws in sudden bursts of motion, guided by electrical cues drifting through the sea. The deeper the ocean becomes, the more distinctive these adaptations grow, yet every form remains connected to the same long evolutionary history. Beneath the diversity of shapes and behaviors lies a shared design that has proven resilient across geological ages. Cartilage skeletons, sensitive sensory organs, and efficient bodies continue to support sharks in habitats that vary from warm shallows to the quietest depths. This layered structure of the ocean reveals a world far more complex than it first appears. What might seem like a single environment from the surface is in fact a towering system of habitats stacked one above another. Each layer hosts its own community of animals, shaped by light, pressure, and the slow movement of nutrients through the water column. Exploration of these regions continues to reveal unexpected life. Cameras lowered into deep water often encounter species that few people have seen before. Submersibles drift across seafloor landscapes where unfamiliar animals move through the glow of artificial lights. Each descent adds new details to the picture of how life persists in such extreme conditions. With every discovery, the ocean reminds us that its deeper layers remain only partially known. Sharks glide through these environments as they have for ages, adapting gradually to changes in their surroundings while maintaining a connection to their ancient origins. In the quiet darkness beneath the waves, evolution continues its slow work. Depth after depth reveals new variations of a design that has endured across immense stretches of time. The ocean remains vast, layered, and mysterious, and within its deeper waters, the story of sharks continues to unfold with patient persistence.